this edition of 2020 Daily Trail Markers, we're taking a closer look at Elizabeth Warren's presidential campaign. According to several polls, the Massachusetts senator has seen a steady rise in support from African-American voters, a key constituency that will play a massive role in determining who secures the Democratic nomination. Quinnipiac University released this national poll last week showing Warren winning 19% of the African-American vote. That's a 9-point jump since August. But as you see there, she still trails former Vice President Joe Biden, who's polling at 40% in that category. Joining us now from sunny San Diego is Zak Hudak. He's a CBS News 2020 campaign reporter. And Zak, I want to get from you what you think the Warren campaign attributes this recent bump with African-American voters to.
Well, Errol, the Warren campaign does not talk about polls. This has been a thing since the beginning, when the polls weren't so nice to them. Still, even when they're looking better, they don't like to talk about polls. So the official response from them on this, no comment. But nonetheless, this is significant. There's been a lot of doubt over and over about her ability to win black votes. This is a sign maybe she's starting to do so. But at the same time, she's rising in name recognition, and she's still not really seeing a ton of black voters come out to her events in general. But if we're looking at how did she get here, she's been sort of doing everything she can to this point, I think, to reach out. She's been meeting with local activists in different cities she's gone to. She's had 5 or 6 pretty recent events at historically black colleges and universities. So she has been trying to reach out to the black community. This could be a sign that they're starting to listen.
Right. Her branding seems to have been she has a plan for that. So surely she's been executing some kind of plan for this. But I want to ask you about South Carolina, because more than 60% of the primary voters there are African American. Is Warren's recent national success with African Americans carrying over to the Palmetto State?
You know, Errol, there was a recent Winthrop poll that showed her really rising there. I think she was at 17%. Biden's still far ahead, but she nonetheless was gaining on him. A Democratic strategist who's spent a lot of time down there I talked to today said he thinks that is nothing. He thinks, you know, that's really just a matter of more white voters in South Carolina flocking to Warren. I was there last week with her at Clinton College in Rock Hill. That's a historically black college. She drew a great crowd, well over 500 people. I didn't count more than 30 or 40 African Americans in the crowd there.
So in your view, you know, with Warren galvanizing African American supporters, does it represent that her base is beginning to widen at all, or is it more of a narrow effort?
You know, Errol, I think what we're seeing is that her base is widening, but she's taking from all different candidates. She's been taking from Kamala Harris, from Pete Buttigieg. It seems possible that she could widen with African Americans. In her stump speech, you know, it's all centered around economic injustice. And she says the path has gotten rockier to the middle class. And when she said, after that, she gets just roaring applause when she continues and says, and for people of color, even rockier and even steeper. So it's part of her message. She's getting out there. She's trying to expand in this sort of voter bloc, but we'll see how it plays out.
And the Massachusetts senator announced an extensive labor rights plan on Thursday. Touching on your note about this economic theme, what's in it?
Errol, it has 5 pillars. She talks about extending labor rights to all workers, strengthening, organizing, and collective bargaining, and the right to strike, rising wages, $15 minimum wage for everyone. And just, it goes on for, I think it's 14 pages. This is, along with pretty much every other Democratic candidate, she wants to be the, you know, face of the labor movement. She wants people to think, I can count on Elizabeth Warren to strengthen unions. In every speech, she says, unions build America's middle class, they'll rebuild America's middle class. She released this ahead of the SEIU forum that most of the candidates will be at this weekend. And, you know, in one sense, yeah, she's playing to sort of typical unions like that. But she got just glowing reviews on the plan today from, you know, everybody to the flight attendants union. So this is sort of her next stage in saying, look, I am the union candidate. But we'll see how Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, who, as we all know, has a long relationship with the firefighters union, how they respond and, make attempts to one-up her on this.
Yeah, the competition certainly heating up. Zak Hudak, thanks for your insight, joining us from scenic California.